Welcome into the official. Thank you, everybody. Just want to say one more time, the last two videos have been some of our most watched ever, with 500 views 2 weeks ago and then pushing over 200 for the 3-star running back show. That's almost double what we would normally do. So thank you so much. Like and subscribe to this channel and like this video if you are enjoying the recruiting content here on the official. So, we're going to get right into it. We're going to go 3-star receivers this week. So we've done 3-star quarterbacks. We've done 3-star running backs. And now we're going to highlight specifically 24/7 composite 3-stars that we think have a bright future, whether it is college fantasy production or even with an eye to the NFL, as we always want to do for Campus to Canton leagues. Without further ado, this is the official. All right, boys, back in action here this week and ready to take on 3-star receivers. I'm intimidated. Receivers are hard for me. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, receivers are difficult for me as well. I feel like I'm learning. It's been quite the learning curve with receivers. I've been trapped way too often, but we're learning. We're getting better. We got some gems for you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one thing I think, David, you've kind of come off of this as well, and maybe even Matt. I think all of us have kind of ventured off of like always hoping for that 6'3", 210-pound guy who's super raw and athletic to turn into a wide receiver. So you'll notice a lot of, 6 feet and under receivers that we have highlighted, some not, but a lot of the guys that we're going for now, I've actually come to really like right about, if you can give me 6 feet, 180, 185, like I love that physique for future production, because maybe they put on 5 to 7 in college, come into the NFL at 5 or 6 feet 190 or something like that. I think those are some of the most productive in the NFL these days. Although Mike Evans just had a crazy game, and he's one of the last remaining, I feel like, dinosaur 6'3", 225-pound receivers that's doing a lot of work. I guess AJ Brown as well. All right, so as usual, we do bring up 3-star guys all year long. And so some guys you're going to notice if you follow our show that they kind of are not mentioned. So because we've talked about them all year, they're already ranked for us. These are some, guys that we're actually drafting oftentimes in mock drafts and stuff. So instead of rehashing those names, we kind of tried to dig a little deeper and do 3-star guys who might not have discussed that much, but we still like. So, Matt, who are some of the 3-star guys we've talked about? We're not going to really mention too much in depth tonight.
Yeah, the big one for me would be Kai and Barry Johnson. I mean, anybody who's watched the show knows that we love him. We have him much higher than the services. Jordan Ross, somebody that I like a lot, going to Colorado State. Zachary Sample going to Arizona State. Marshall Sanders going to Fresno State. There's a lot of guys we've talked about up to this point, but those are probably some of the bigger ones.
Yeah. David, anybody you want to throw out there just so our listeners make sure they get the name down, even though we're not going to go into it?
Yeah, even though we just talked about how we're not really on tall guys, Jeremiah Melvin is still semi-interesting going to Wake Forest. He's like a 6'5", converted basketball player. He's kind of interesting. Trey Davis going to Kansas State, super athletic guy. Jameer Thomas, he's just like a ultra shifty player, kind of do it all, like mostly yak special teams type guy going to Syracuse. Miles Coleman, he's bite size, like 5'5", 140. Little mighty mouse there, going to North Texas still. I think he's still committed to North Texas.
Signed.
Okay, yeah, and then Jason Robinson, pretty small as well. He's listed between 145 and 160. I think he's listed on the team website at like 151, if I'm not mistaken. And then Joseph McVay, he's going to Vanderbilt, plays in the middle of nowhere, so has like very little interest in general. So there's like no eyes on him, but he could be a decent little sleeper.
All right, very good. So we got names. We like those guys. Don't mistake that we're off of them or anything. But we're going to give you about 5 each that we really like, and some of these guys we haven't really talked about, late risers in the process, or just gems that we've come to really appreciate as the process has gone on. Before we get there, let me just quickly mention our partner, homefieldapparel.com. They have awesome merchandise, kind of retro-y, vintage feel for every single program you can imagine. Colorado School of Mines, all the way to Georgia and Alabama of the world, and really everything in between. And we got shirts, hoodies, hats, sweatpants, kind of everything you need. And they're all very unique styles and really kind of a different take on your traditional college sports apparel. So go check them out, homefieldapparel.com. And if it's the first purchase, type in campus #2 Canton in the promo code, get 15% off. So be sure and go check out our good friends over at Home Field Apparel. And then, of course, also, we're going to want you to check out campus2canton.com. That is the website that kind of supports and fuels this podcast. We are all, staffers over there and do a lot of our work over there. There's tools and a lot of different player comp abilities, and as well as your traditional rankings, articles, and all the other good stuff. But the really awesome things are the tools that we have, projection machines, and all those sorts of things to help you at college fantasy football, the dynasty side, on the NFL side, and really everything in between from campus to Canton. There you go. So membership starting as little as $2.99 a month. Go check out campus2canton.com. All right, so the business is out of the way. Let's get into these players. We're going to go right back to David. Tristan Brown, a guy I did like, but, we kind of don't like to overlap. So David called him before I could put in the chat. So he's yours to talk about. But let me pull up his where's my cursor? This is great radio or great podcasting. All right, Tristan Brown, take it away, David.
Yeah, so I'm still ride or die with Vanderbilt. Even though they had a bit of a max exodus, they lost a lot of their key contributors with Will Shepard, London Humphreys, Jaden McGowan, and Jermian Carter. So there's actually some opportunity there. They have a real bad defense also, so it's a lot of passing to like try to catch up. But he's he seems kind of like a natural player to me, just like a playmaker in general. And does a lot. He makes a lot of like the subtle moves. Like for instance, like he'll make like if he's about to score or whatever, he'll actually do like a high step so like the defender doesn't like nip his heels and trip him up. So he does like the little small things. I think like a little bit of a limited route tree at this point, but I think from what I've seen from like his one-on-ones, like his movements there, his quick feet are there. I don't think that's gonna be an issue at all. I think he'll develop pretty well. Also, he hits 22 miles per hour. He's actually relatively thick, I guess, like 5'9". They have him listed at 185. I feel like that's probably a little generous, but 5'9", 175 with a little room to grow, kind of like that. And he's kind of a dog too. Like he's an aggressive blocker. I just like guys like that. Like he's gonna break some tackles too. So he's an interesting playmaker. I could, with Vandy, kind of little opportunity there too. So maybe he avoids the year 1-0 thing. If he's, I don't know if he's a qualifier for that, but
3 stars aren't technically.
No, I was corrected by our good friend Mike Valerie on a podcast earlier this week where I said somebody was a year 1-0, and he goes, technically they don't qualify for year 1-0 unless they're like a top 50 at their position or top 100 recruit in the nation, something like that. So these guys are all beyond that. It still matters to me a little bit, but technically the study that was done by our people here did not that far down the list. Year 1-0 wasn't looked at. It might matter. We just don't know. But it still matters a little bit to me. I can't lie. All right, Matt, take us to Trey Griffiths first on your list here.
Yeah, so he is 6'3", 205, committed to Oklahoma State. And he's kind of a guy that I didn't get onto until pretty late. He's actually really high for me now. He's my wide receiver 20 in the class. He's a 47-foot triple jumper, 21.9 miles per hour. You'll see that on the last play of these highlights, actually. And he's actually kind of a refined guy already. He works with Morgan Hooks, who works with pretty much every big name out of Texas. He's got the ball skills on top of it, decent after the catch. This play right here is the one where he hits 21.9, and you can see he can kind of fly when he gets in the open field like that. 43 catches, 847 yards, 8 touchdowns, 19.7 average as a senior. We definitely still want the boundary receiver for Oklahoma State. They were 8th last season in pass attempts per game. And, I know they've got a couple guys there now. I believe Presley is back for another year. Is that correct?
I never know.
If not, I mean, he's been around for a while now.
He has been.
Either way, they don't really have any young talent there. I mean, Shetron never really turned into anything. Yeah, they haven't really got any other big young names since then. So I think he can come in and be that next boundary guy for them.
Okay, I love that, and you're totally right about that offense in general. You do want the boundary receiver, and we don't hate the big, tall guys. I've really just strayed away from like the raw one that you want to dream on. But if they're showing some skills and some nuance already, I don't think it's not bad. And there is still definitely a place for a true X. I just think it's harder to project them a little bit. But that guy certainly is interesting, and yeah, he can scoot like you showed there. I'm going to go with my first one here, Alex Green. He's a player committed to or signed, I think, with Tulsa. And he played for the Hutto Hippos, one of the best names in high school football that I've found. But the Hutto Hippos, also the alma mater of Will Hammond, who was, I think, ended up a 4-star QB that we liked, who put up some insane numbers this year. I think almost all of those numbers went to Alex Green. He finished his senior year with 2,000 receiving yards. But even as a junior, he led the team with 900 receiving yards and accounted for about 40% of their market share as a junior. And then obviously as a senior with 2,000 went absolutely ham. He hits over 21 miles an hour. I can't remember if it's 21 or 22, but basically for receivers, he hits 21 point something. Basically for receivers, I'm not that worried about the max speed the way I am with running backs. I do want to see a threshold level. Like I kind of want it around 21 or more, but 21.8 and 21.2 and 22.6 are kind of the same for me because there's a lot more. We've talked about it on this show quite a bit. There's a lot more than just your top speed, but I do want them to have like a requisite, reasonable speed to be able to compete at that next level. But I think he shows a lot of good just route running skills. He does have acceleration, and then the production is bonkers. And we may look back and say, wow, Alex Green made Will Hammond and not the other way around. Going to Tulsa, there should be opportunity. And I believe the incumbent starter is going to be Cardell Williams, who was a 3-star I really liked about 2 cycles ago, I think. He was on my kind of 3 stars to watch list and got some started most of the season. So Tulsa looking like a little 3-star hotbed potentially. We'll see how that plays out. So let's see the list here for David. Your next guy here is Landon Wright. Take it away.
Yeah, so Landon Wright, he's one of the youngest players in this class. 17.45 National Signing Day age, which, so I'm a little more forgiving that he is kind of a senior breakout, honestly, but he had a monster year. 66 catches, over 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns versus a 36 SOS. Just a reminder, I believe like around 26 is like average SOS, so pretty strong competition. I just think he's really fluid. He plays in a similar style offense to what Washington State. Like, they kind of really spread it out. Nice little. I mean, he got that guy pretty good there. I think he's a hands catcher. I think the one thing I like that he converts, from the catch point to yak, really smoothly. I don't know. Washington State is a weird. It's a landing spot. It almost feels like a trap at times with wide receivers. I don't know. Like, I'd have to go back to the history, but they kind of do spread the ball around a little bit. But it's like you kind of want the quarterback more at times. But I just like him as a player, and I figured I should bring him up. I think he also has a little inside-outside versatility too, which I like. I think that gives him a better chance of getting on the field early.
Good call out there. I don't think we have any idea what to expect from like Washington State, Oregon State. I think they're gonna play like a Mountain West schedule, so you might be getting some, G5 competition there, which for fantasy could be sneaky against the, instead of traditional Power 5. But that is just a weird. Those schools, who knows what to expect? So it could be wholesale changes all around. One thing I look at a lot, and I saw it with him. Get up off the line. I'm not talking about fancy footwork necessarily. I'm just talking about that start. Some guys kind of like really seem they need to pump to get their body going, and some are just really smooth with the body control from complete stop to get moving. And he looked very clean. So that's something I don't really know how to quantify, but I do look at. I don't, it's like ruddering. I know it when I see it, kind of thing that we've talked about before. Matt, Donovan Hamilton. Next on your list. So take it away.
Yeah, so he is committed to Purdue. Another more bigger wide receiver. Like Alfred said in the beginning of the show, I wasn't expecting to have that many big guys, but here we are. He is 6'4", 195. Probably not an amazing tester. I got him at 20.8 miles per hour. It doesn't have a blazing 40 or anything like that, but he is a basketball player. I think he actually has a lot of functional athleticism. He's very flexible. In these highlights alone, you're going to see he has 3 catches, so obviously he has the ball skills. I don't think he's a technician per se, but I think he's a lot more ready to go than you'd expect. He can get the low through breaks much better than most big wide receivers that I've seen. So I think that at least leads to a potential good future with him as a route runner. Pretty good production last year, 934 yards, 11 touchdowns, 20 average per catch. And Purdue's a solid spot. It's not as pass heavy as some of these other guys I'm going to talk about, 54th in pass attempts per game. But that's solid, though. And, they don't really have any young studs at the room that I'm aware of. So,
yeah, I think we liked, I forget his name. Guy's last name started with a D last year, who was injured.
They got Armand Branch.
Okay. I thought there was another guy that he was injured, didn't play at all. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, Purdue's always gonna throw the ball around. I feel like it's just like in their DNA as a program. And you know what? Hip sync, I think you mentioned it, and I feel like I did see it a little bit on those clips. It's not something I really know what the heck I'm looking at. It's something I'm trying to get better on, this whole idea of like hip sync and explosion out of that. It's people who are very smart seem to talk about that a lot. I need to learn exactly what I'm looking for, but I feel like he looked smooth in that aspect as well. All right. So I'm going for Brandon Phelps here. This is probably the biggest receiver I think I'm going to look at here. He's about 6'3", I think, pushing 200 pounds. Put up silly numbers in, I don't know what his SOS is if you guys have it off the top of your head, in Arizona, but it's 1,670 yards, I think, as a junior. And then that was his senior year, 17 touchdowns. I think as a junior, he had like 28 touchdowns, something insane. So a big guy, hyper productive. But he looks athletic. He looks like he can do actual wide receiver things, not simply, just go up and get a jump ball, though he did there. And you'll see this next one. I think he's on the sidelines here in street clothes, maybe, and catches this ball and gets knocked over. I'm not sure that was, he must have been maybe injured or something. I think there's another angle, if you watch later in the clip, that was a crazy one-handed catch. And so, I just think he's going to Arizona. Arizona is one of those schools, I don't know what to expect, like Washington State. Jed Fish is gone. They're probably going to have a max exodus of players. That hasn't quite happened yet, to my knowledge, but I think Fafita might go. You would imagine McMillan might go to Washington with their coach. But this is just a guy who's maybe ready to contribute. At least body size is ready. And then he looked a little bit more nuanced and more skilled at being a wide receiver than some of these other bigger guys that we see from time to time. So a guy I've kind of identified throughout the process. I know I mentioned him a long time ago, I'm pretty sure, and kind of stayed with it. He seemed to be good, put up a ridiculous senior year. And so he's an exciting guy, but definitely out of he's the most different of the receivers I'll talk about tonight, just because he is more of that bigger X type. Let's see, David, a guy I'm interested to hear what you have to say about, because he's been someone I've been eyeing as well, and I like the landing spot. Zaman Lang headed to Toledo. Tell me about this Maction candidate.
Yeah, he was committed to South Carolina. Had a lot of SEC offers, but they wanted him at cornerback. But he wants to play offense. So he's actually like a little bit of a project. I think some of these teams just didn't want to spend the time to develop him, maybe. But you're getting an SEC athlete. He's real long, real twitchy. It looks like I don't have any actual speed metrics on him, but just by looking at him, he looks fast to me. So you're getting a premier athlete in the Maction. I mean, I'm very interested in that. But it's kind of, how much will he develop? Doesn't have much of a route tree at this point. It's just like housing screens and catch and goes and stuff like that. So, but like, I think he's got a good frame. I think he's got real low body fat. Like I think he'll fill out. I think he'll get a little more coordinated. He's just like one of these guys you can see like all of a sudden in like 3 years, it's like, wait, Toledo has a stud receiver. All right, cool. Like I could just see that happening. But you never know. We'll see.
Going off the vibes, going off the Toledo or the Toledo vibes. I love it. All right, Matt, give us a review here of Tyler Stewart, your wide receiver, next wide receiver in this list.
Yeah, so now I finally got a tiny guy here, 5'9", 172, committed to Temple. And as you can imagine, very fast, 10.6, 700 meter, 4.4, 240. I believe I got him at 21.6 miles per hour. So checks all the boxes there. Good kick returner, as you just saw. He's pretty shifty when he's out in the open field. Probably going to project as more of a slot at the next level just because of his size. But he's the kind of guy that's going to be a killer on like slants and posts, screens, of course. He teammates with Zion Raggins in high school, who is actually rated much higher by the services. Committed to Oklahoma, another guy who's also even smaller, but also even faster as well. But Stewart actually outproduced him this year. He had a great senior season, 59 catches, 1,265 yards, 21 touchdowns with a 21.4 average. And, Temple, another pretty weak depth chart. And they were third in pass attempts per game last year. So definitely the opportunity there to produce.
That'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think EJ Warner left. I wonder if they'll still pass so much, but yeah, definitely was shot. That's a shocking nugget. I bet you could stump a lot of people with that. Temple.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go with Cameron Bates here. You'll notice a lot of these guys. I know almost most of my guys are from Texas or Florida. Not sure if that's the same for all you guys, but I'll just tell you part of my process. Honestly, there's so many receivers to look at. I did a little personal kind of look back study probably 3 years ago now about where do these gems kind of come from. And it was pretty clearly Florida, Texas, California, where you would think the 3 stars that pop early in their career come from. And so I really limit a lot of my searching, to these states because it's so rich and you get spillover and there's just too many guys to rank. I think that guys get missed. So, just a pro tip for you all, if you're listening and want to go 3-star mining yourself, start in those states. Don't overwhelm yourself with every 3-star in the country. Start with those states and you can find a lot there. So speaking of Cameron Bates, 5'9", 165 pounds. So this is a smaller dude. Going to Boise State, which we like, because they just always have decent offense, whether it's running, passing, whatever. They're a good quality G5 program. But he's a very, very fun guy. He put up quite as a senior, 900 yards, but this team only threw for 2,000. So almost 50%. And he did have 50% of their touchdowns. So that's what you like to see, a guy who just dominates, completely dominates. Also chipped in 14, 135, and 1 on the ground. And I guess we need to roll the tape here. But yeah, what I like about him is very, very shifty, quick in short spaces, and seems to know what to do with, stutter steps. These are some qualities you would appreciate in a running back, but he has them as a wide receiver, and you'll see they use him a lot in different ways. That's a nice little, I forget what the route is called there, but where you do the little like in, out, curl outwards. But, he shows a little nuance, but then just a lot of ability to kind of juke, create space with his feet, and then acceleration to blow past guys. So, I think he could be a yak candidate here, even though he's 165 pounds. He just gets upfield quick, and he does a lot of his feet are very active. And I think he does a decent job, at least on what I watched, creating space with those movements to then get around guys with speed. So I really like what he brings to the table. Used in a lot of ways in high school, always like that as well. So I think there's lots to like about Cameron Bates, production wise, film wise, the whole 9 yards there. Mekhi Anderson going to a lovely G5 program for us, David. Tell us about him.
Yeah, headed to UTSA, which is a hot spot for receivers. Like you're talking about Landon Wright, like his get off, that's definitely something I look at too. Like he just gets off the line so fast. Just big time burst. It's kind of weird. 24/7 only has him as one offer from UTSA. He's from Florida, so I don't know. The Florida teams weren't really into him, so that's kind of unique. And he plays for Armwood High School, which I don't know. I think it's a mid-sized one probably, but his teammate is Kason Stokes, who's committed to UCF, so he's not like an unknown, and he almost tripled his production as a senior. It was a really run-heavy offense in general, but I don't know. He like tripled his production, and no one really wanted him. So I don't know. Maybe there's some off-field stuff I don't really know about, but yeah, long arms, big hands. He catches with his hands for the most part. It didn't seem stiff. I have down here that he has like no contact balance, so that's a weakness there. And he's kind of a Tasmanian devil at this point. He's just kind of all over the place. Not a lot of smoothness to his game. Like a lot of herky-jerky movements, but he can make guys miss because of that, so that he has that on his side. So it's just kind of, can UTSA just keep kind of hitting on these guys and making these, can we get another productive receiver from there? But I definitely like his burst and speed and overall athleticism.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live down in that general vicinity. Armwood used to be kind of a powerhouse. I think just in terms of the guys coming out of there, used to have 4 or 5 stars every year. A lot of 4-star types, but yeah, always kind of run heavy and anyway, but definitely a known high school. I wouldn't call it an unknown type place, and I'm sure they play a decent competition as well. Malachi James next on your list here, bud.
Yeah, so he is uncommitted at the moment, 5'11", 195, and this is just a speed bet, really. I mean, he is incredibly fast, 10.5, 600 meter, 22 miles per hour on the indoor track circuit right now for this season. I think he's 4th in the country for seniors in the 60 meters. So incredibly fast. Just got an offer from UAB last week, and then said he was shutting down his recruitment and committing in early February. So more than likely going to UAB. He can play a bit of running back too. As a senior, 25 catches, 609 yards, 8 touchdowns, 24-yard average per catch. And then rushing, he had 479 yards, 5 touchdowns on the 13-yard average. So he stepped up his production by a good bit this year, which is good to see. UAB is a solid landing spot, 24th in the pass attempts per game. I'm really just hoping for him to out-athlete people, because you really don't get to see him show off anything on his tape other than him just being extremely fast. So there's definitely question marks about the rest of his game as a whole. But I'll bet on that speed in the G5 at least.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I think these athletic guys in G5 is a lot safer. It's harder to project, to the next level or even Power 5. But all right, my next player is going to be one of these guys that I just usually fall for. Jack of all trades, do it all on their high school team. Zachary Weidner. I think I've maybe mentioned it before. He's out of the state of Florida, 5'10", 180. So a nice build there. And, he kind of, I think he's like second on his team in receiving and second or third in rushing, put up, close to 1,000 total yards, like some kind of 600, 300 split or something like that. A lot of ins and rounds, a lot of rushing, but then a lot of receiving as well. And honestly, this is not, data driven. He looks just like a player. I mean, the guy, he just like, David's mentioned kind of the transition from catching the ball to getting upfield. I just see, body control. I see these kind of nuanced movements where you look at a guy and you're just like, oh yeah, like that's what guys to the next level look like. And I know that's not numbers, that's not data, which we like to really look at here a lot. But Zachary Weidner just kind of looks like he's got it. And I know that the staff and everything has changed over at Coastal, and went to Liberty and their OC is gone. But this is the program that attracted a guy like, I think Jared Brown, who was kind of that type of player, contributed in the run game, also a really good receiver, also a 3-star guy, I'm pretty sure out of the state of Florida or Georgia. But he came on as a redshirt freshman and was really, really good. Now he's transferred, I think, going to South Carolina this year. And I really like him as a player. And I think Weidner is a little bit bigger than that. And he's just one of these playmakers. And I think he could probably, contribute at least maybe in the return game as a freshman, and get on the field. And that's always a great place to start. So I like Weidner with his body size and his versatility to do some damage in the G5 at least. And we'll see where he goes from there. Okay, Carson Grove. I think we're getting here towards the end. David, take us away.
So Carson Grove, I don't know how much of his route running we'll actually see in these clips, but I thought he was one of the better route runners I watched out of the three stars, honestly. Like, he had a pretty full route tree. He's on the smaller side, so he's 5'10", 175 on the Northwestern website. And yeah, I guess I'm touting a Northwestern player. I don't know what to say. Like, I like him as a player. He's going to Northwestern. I feel bad about it, but listen, I like him. So he hits 21 miles per hour according to Titan Sensor on Twitter. So pretty good speed there. Just an ultra productive guy as well. So he checks boxes there. So, 64 receptions, over 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns. He was first team all Illinois. He's another guy that does special teams. I like that. He can contribute in other ways. But yeah, it's really like, I was just digging and looking for anyone that can run routes, and I thought he was pretty good in that regard. Now, his size isn't anything special, and like his strength might not be good enough for the Big Ten. I'm not really sure. So it's just like, does he survive in the Big Ten, or does he potentially transfer down? I kind of hope he just transfers down, honestly, and goes to like a smaller school and just kind of eats there. But I like the player.
I think we have some technical difficulties here. I don't know why this screen is on here.
Yeah, no, I just kept going just in case.
Yeah, no. The show must go on. Hold on. We're just gonna get through this here. We got a couple minutes. Let's do it. I think someone else is trying to start a show. Also, speaking of Northwestern, Malik Washington went from Northwestern and was awesome at Virginia this year. So you really never know, just pick the talent, and in the transfer era, anything can happen. Jarvis Hamuli, we'll go with Hamuli. Matt, I wasn't prepared for that name, but take it away with Jarvis.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know how to pronounce it either, but that's all right. Going to Hawaii, 6'3", 190. Probably not a great athlete, but I think he's one of the better route runners I picked tonight, at least, or at least one of the better route runners that are 3 stars that I've seen. So I think in that aspect, he's ready to go. Plays inside and outside, mostly plays in the slot right now, so kind of that bigger slot type. Going to Hawaii, he's the younger brother of Pofella Ashlock, actually. So he has ties there. Hawaii's the only school to offer him. Same thing with Ashlock. He didn't get any other offers other than Hawaii out of high school. So he's definitely following down his path. Solid production last year, 836 yards, 8 touchdowns, 22.6 average. So nice downfield threat. And obviously Hawaii's a pretty solid spot. Not a super deep young room. And they were 7th in pass attempts per game last year. So I definitely like that.
Yeah, like kind of like Purdue, no matter what happens, those schools, you know, the Kawhi is going to throw the ball. All right. And then to wrap it up here, we are going a little bit long, started a little late, but Kobe Young, 5'11", 175, headed to Houston, which I believe now is a P4 program as of this year in the Big 12. So not a G5 anymore, but out of the state of Louisiana, which is another place I do go to look for some hidden gems. A lot of athletes in Louisiana. But, you know, the interesting thing for him, his best season in high school was 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. But if you look at it, that was like 50% of his team's production almost, or 40-something%. The team was just completely inept at throwing the football. It all went to him as a junior. His senior year was a little bit different, but his junior year was really amazing from a market share perspective. He hits over 21 miles an hour. And I just thought he was a good-looking receiver, you know, hit all the different things I look for off the line, and ability to run routes, crisp turning, change of direction, and then that straight line speed, and also the production really helps, I think, weed out some guys. I think in the past, one thing I've done is get excited about the tape, and then you realize they're like, oh, 3rd on their team in production. You're like, well, okay. So I've tried to stay away from those types. But all right, that was a whirlwind. Anybody else that we forgot? I think we got through everybody, all 15 players.
Yep, I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Every year it's exciting to see how these guys develop and go throughout their college career, because there's really nothing better than nailing a 3-star. One of my favorite things we do. And if you're listening at home, don't forget to tune in next week. We will do tight ends. Yes, we are going that deep to look at 3-star tight ends to add to your fantasy team, because Chris Mockley, contractually obligated. We are obligated to talk about tight ends. All right, that's it, folks. This has been The Official.